that means is, this gentleman over here could be in bankruptcy right now, and I can still get him lines of credit that'll be off the charts, because it has nothing to do with him personally, but for his business, if done right. Come on now, I know it's 6 p.m. on a Thursday, you know, and sit there and say, how you doing? And they're like, all right, we good, go on, get started. I always like to start off just giving thanks for Almighty for having us here today and safely. And I appreciate everyone here. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's a presentation that I share with many of my clients, and Sydney told me give them the extra long version tonight. So we're only going to go about 3.5 hours. So if you guys are good, 3.5 hours, we'll be out of here, okay? Fair enough? Right or right? I know, she's like, everybody, all right, beeline out. So we'll get started. My name is David Griffin. My background is in banking. I've been a banker since a long time. Really started in the late 80s. Started in banking, and I had a great run, everything from working in investment banking, worked in the commercial sector, retail banking. A large portion of my background was working with small to mid-sized companies when it comes to credit and finance. Financing businesses, financing real estate transactions, and really just helping people to get what it is that they need for their lending needs. I spent a lot of my time consulting. You know, I shared with my parents when they asked me, well, what do you want to do for your career? And both my parents being educators and teachers, and I said, I want to make money. I said, you don't want to be a teacher? I said, not really. I said, I want to make a lot of money. I said, the teacher wasn't it. The one thing that I did learn, though, is that one of the best abilities that I had was educate and empower my clients for success. So what I want to do this evening is share with you a little bit more about our presentation, about Richer Nation. We're going to talk about the business credit side, and talk a little bit about how we can help you maximize your power of business credit and move beyond. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about my company or myself, because I really want you to come here to learn so much about me, but really how we can help you. My company is called Richer Nation. Richer Nation is a company I started in 2014 where I can educate, empower, and equip entrepreneurs for success. We're in the process of building a dynamic website, which is we're in the pre-launch stage, and I'm very excited for what's to come on that. But with regards to business credit, what we do is help my clients. So as it states, our goal is to continue to assist business owners securing money throughout the lifetime of the business. So when we talk about establishing business credit, we're not just talking about building it just for this very current moment, but for many years to come. Because as an entity, the entity is its own individual, right? People think that when they start a business, or at least they may have the mindset that this is a business that I have for today, and when I expire, I'm gone and the business is gone. But that's not so. The business is meant to do what? To be passed on for generations and generations to come. It's its own entity. It's its own individual. With business credit, one of the most important pieces of it is having the right information to set up and establish. Unlike your personal, where you just have your social security number and your name, right? The business is very important because certain lenders will want to lend to you and establish credit with you, whereas others will not, based on the types of business you have. So as an example, if you're in a very high-risk business, like a trucking industry, it's very difficult to get credit under the trucking business. Now you might sit there and say, well, I got a friend who's got a trucking company doing well. Right, because they're going to look at the cash flow and the statements that come through the cash flow. And so when you're having your business, we're going to talk a little bit more in this presentation on how we're going to structure it, and the importance of having certain credentials in place. With the benefits of business credit, here's what I would like to share with you. The most important piece of building your business credit profile is the fact that you're not personally guaranteeing it. As a mortgage banker, I can't tell you how many times I would speak with my clients, and they sit down at the table and they say, oh, I want to buy this lovely house. I was like, oh, well, let's show you. And my credit's perfect. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful. and I go take application, I pull their own personal credit, and they say, well, I'm in business, I'm making great money, everything else. But then when I pull their personal credit, they've guaranteed everything under the business. And it ruins their opportunity for their personal side. So it's most important when I share with my clients is that when we have your business, everything is done under the business itself, not merging the two. As an individual, you would have things on your own. As a person, for your business, you keep things separated.
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with Paydex?
No.
Anybody in the room? No. So Paydex is a scoring system. You're familiar with your FICO, right?
Yeah.
Your FICO is. So if I were to share with you a 740, I'm sorry, I was getting hot and bothered with my jacket on. And I like to get a little casual. Mr. Cameraman, I'm sorry, I like to walk around. I'll keep it within a certain range. But being a short guy from Brooklyn, New York, you don't have to go high or low. You just sit there and keep it streamlined from here to there. And we make that happen, okay? Paydex is very much like your FICO. It's a scale. So if you've got a 500 FICO, the odds of me getting you qualified for a mortgage are very challenging. It's not impossible, but it's extremely challenging versus an 800 FICO, which is like whatever you want. Well, the Paydex score is that same scoring system. The only difference is based on it says 0 to 100. Our goal with my company is to help our clients to establish their business credit from the very beginning to get them from a 0 to a 75 Paydex score. It's kind of like going with a 0 credit score to a 740 FICO score. That is kind of if you want to look at it, measured between personal and business. The importance and the relevance of this is the ability for you to access capital, or in this case, access lines of credit. As I will talk a little bit later on, and as I get ramped up here, kind of like a Baptist preacher in a sermon, I'll go ahead and I'll share with you how you can utilize this credit to your benefit, especially as a business owner. So the Paydex score, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm not the guy that's going to read the slides to you, because otherwise you get dull, bored, and ready to go home. I only have 3.5 more hours left, so we'll go ahead and make that move. So, when done correctly, but I will freeze on this, when done correctly, business credit can be built without personal credit check. So what that means is, this gentleman over here could be in bankruptcy right now, and I can still get him lines of credit that'll be off the charts, because it has nothing to do with him personally, but for his business, if done right. Often, I will speak with people in a counseling session, or if I'm in a seminar and I meet people, say, oh, I got business credit, everything else. And I said, well, yeah, as soon as I opened up my bank account, they gave me credit cards under my business name and everything else. I said, like Matumbo, no, right? No. You were personally guaranteeing that. So anything that happens, the bank is saying, sure, we'll extend this line of credit based off your personal strength, but if you default, we're coming after you personally. With a business, everything is completely separate. So it's very important to understand that. And the most important piece is that it's done right from the very beginning. So I've kind of shared a little bit about this, because as I shared before, if you have a 550 FICO, it's going to be a little bit stronger. But if you have an 85 Paydex score, right, and I've already shared, your ability to access capital and credit lines is substantially greater than if you had whatever your FICO score may have been in the first place. So I'm going to talk a little bit about steps to building business credit. And there's a methodology behind it. So some people say, sure, I saw a TikTok video the other day. The guy said, just go to Uline and go to Granger and go ahead and set my accounts up and go from there. Well, that's the first 2 baby steps you take. There are many, many more steps to take in order to establish your business credit. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that. What's most important is, that the business builds a credit profile very much the same like the consumer. We start off with a new credit profile. And doing it the right way is important for the structure and the amount of credit that will be extended to you. If you have a company that's in your personal name, many companies will not extend the credit. And they say, well, wait, well, why not? Or maybe if you're in a business that, as I shared, is a high-risk business, we may want to change it up. So, as an example, say someone was in a vape business, right? Some banks don't like to go in those kind of alternative areas. So instead of saying, we're the, Johnny Do Right Vape Company, they might say, Johnny Do Right Tobacco Consultants. Something that will not allude to something that will be deemed as illicit or deemed as something that would be kind of on somewhat of a negative. Many times, our consultants in the credit business building credit interview will share with you that you may want to present yourself as a consultant or an educator. They like those words. Why? Because it's safe. So when we establish that, we're going to make sure that not only do we have you set up correctly, but then we're also going to educate you and show you and make sure that you're paying bills in a certain time and fashion. We make sure that you do the frequency of it, and there's a variety, so that way, the way it's reported makes you look very presentable when it comes to other lenders as we take you through stages of building your credit. So here's step one, credibility, okay? So as I was just sharing a moment ago, the perception that lenders and vendors have of your business is critical, right? If you say I'm the Johnny Do Right Strip Club, this might be a little tough. But if I say I'm the Johnny Do Right Modeling Agency, see where I'm going with this? Same thing if you come across as a lender, right? They don't want to, even though I may be a mortgage banker and I have a mortgage brokerage and a business, a finance brokerage, they don't want to invest on that, but they will say I'm a consultant. They will say I'm an educator. And that's how my profile is set up. When it comes to the name, as I was sharing, that everything is, the keyword underneath there is exactly the same on your corporation. I'll give you an example. I had started a company, and I said, one of my companies that I started, and I believe, I tell people, I said, it's not a matter of having what company you have, but how many companies you have. I remember a very good friend of mine now, who is a very wealthy individual. He asked me years ago, he said, Dave, how many 1099s do you have? I said, what do you mean how many 1099s I have? I said, I got a 1099 coming from my, he goes, well, that's it? I said, yeah. He said, Dave, you should have a structure and an entity for all of the intellectual property, all of the information, many aspects of what you do. You've got a plethora of opportunities in order to monetize and capitalize on what you know and what you do. And so having my companies, I said, well, that's a great idea. So I went out and I established one of my newer companies at the time, and I put on the end, I think it was a David Griffin Corp. LLC. Now what's wrong with that? Anyone? The David Griffin Corp. LLC.
It doesn't identify what you're doing. It's only your name.
Only my name. What else? It's a trick question.
You can probably be held liable with the name. Is your first and last name?
Possibly because of that.
Say it again, Dave.
The David Griffin Corp. LLC.
Corp LLC.
Well, because Corp LLC
Corp.
don't go against two
Right.
different
Correct.
things.
The two different types of.
Right.
It's either you're going to be an LLC or you're going to be a corporation.
C Corp.
And so I sat there and I said, So they said, Dave, you got to change that up. It can't be both. It got to be one or the other. Which one are you going to be? And so I had to change it. So it's important that when you have your business profile, everything is consistent within the company. When you have your company, let's say in my case, Richer Nation, and everything is consistent down to bank accounts, anything I do, business cards, transactions, etc. Okay? So you can build your business credit with almost any corporate entity type, right? So as you see, it says unless you have a separate business entity like a corporation or LLC, you might be doing business but not truly doing business, right? You ever hear Mark Cuban talk about being an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur, right? Well, the entrepreneurs typically skip a lot of the steps that we're speaking of. Whereas the entrepreneur makes sure that the dot and the I's are crossing the T's. The entrepreneur is going to make sure that they're putting themselves in a position that their company is structured right and that everything is registered and is legit. Your address. So many people will say, I do business at 1234 my home in Tampa, Florida. Well, wait a minute. That's fine. However, you're not really recognized as a true business. You may be a consultant, but as far as being a true business, you would not be. So it must be a real brick and mortar business building. Now here's one thing that a lot of people share. Well, I have a post mailbox, and that's good. However, the moment a company is considering opening credit, extending lines of credit to you, they're going to Google you, right? The power of technology. Then they're going to Google the address, and now all of a sudden it says Postnet. Not a good look. Versus saying like the address that I have, you might say, well, David, what do you use? So I have a co-working space that has it's open. It's not a residence, and it's a physical space that you can come in and out. And they will ask and they will look to see, is this accessible to the general public? Is it open 24 hours? These types of things are being asked, the creditors are looking behind the scenes at your profile and making a judgment call whether we're going to do business. The UPS addresses, as we shared, it's easy, it's good for business if you want to just establish an identity, just to have something on some letterhead or something like that. But for establishing anything that is legal and tangible, like establishing lines of credit, you want to make sure you have something very legit and strong.
So what do you suggest? Should I use your home address, like for people that's not gonna go out and rent a space? Like I just do like real estate investment. So how would you suggest that?
So you can get a virtual, a quote unquote virtual address, but try and get the virtual addresses that they're more of a brick and mortar, they're actual like a business with a suite,
Okay.
as opposed to the UPS store.
Okay.
The perception of it. Now, I also want to make this very clear. The people that are underwriting the loans, it's really more of a transaction as opposed to a true underwriting where someone is scrutinizing every single thing. At the end of the day, this is everything being processed because they want to lend the money just as fast, but there are certain safeguards that they make in the very beginning, and so we want to make sure that everything is done the right way. When it comes to, I have a co-working space. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, before you go to the next slide, I want you to back up to
Sure,
the previous one.
Previous?
Yeah.
Well, I'll make my statement.
Yeah.
I use a co-working space, and my co-working space has an actual mailbox for me, but it has a physical door front. It's a street address, so the perception is, oh, it's an actual building. Okay. But I graduated to that because for many years, years ago, I was like, oh well, I just use Postnet. And I have suite, and instead it says mailbox, I'd say suite, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's when I had to get educated. I was educated on that doesn't really cut it because especially because of technology, as soon as they Google it, they say, oh, that's really a Postnet. Let me go back to the other slide.